Today I'm going to be playing with some blue beads to make a blue necklace. I haven't made a necklace in a while, so I thought it was time that I did, and I'm going to be using some nice simple techniques like opening jump rings and making basic loops. Hi, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Carol, and on this channel I show you how easy it is to make your own jewellery. So today I'm going to be designing as we go, so we'll just see how it goes and play with some beads and see what we end up with. So I will walk you step by step through the process of what I'm going to make, and then I will talk to you about everything that you will need. I'll also leave links in the description box below for everything that we end up using. I have in front of me my bead design board, and I've also got some supplies. Now I know that I want a focal point on this necklace, so I'm going to start with this bead frame. Now this bead frame measures 53 by 39, so it is really large, and I thought that I might pop this coin bead inside with some other beads to fill the space like that. So that's the first component I'm going to make, and then from the end I'm going to put a little dangle on the bottom because it will finish it off nicely. So that's my main focus of my necklace that will go in the middle, and then who knows. So what we will do is I might make this up first, and then we will see where we go with these beads. So I'm going to take some wire. Now this is 20 gauge wire, and I'm going to use my one-step looper to make a loop in the end. Now if you haven't used a one-step looper before, I'll link in the description box below to a video all about how to use one. You don't need a one-step looper. You could use your round nose pliers to make the loop as well. And if you haven't made a loop before like that, then I will leave a link in the description box below for that as well. So I need to cut my wire long enough to go through all of these beads, the bead frame, and have enough to make the loop. So that's what I'm going to do. Right. And I'm just going to thread on. Now if you haven't used a bead frame before, they're quite interesting. So you have a hole at the bottom and one at the top, and you can thread your wire up through the bottom, and I'm going to thread some beads on in the middle. Now you could put anything in the middle of this. You could put a charm or whatever you like, but I'm going to use some beads. So I've got this little 4mm Druk here. Whoops, if I can find the hole. And then I'm going to put on this coin bead. Now this coin bead is a 26mm, so again it's quite large, but it needed to be quite large to fill the space. Alright, so that's what I have now. And then I'm going to put on, I've got a 6mm smooth round glass bead here, and I've got another little Druk. Now when you're working with this type of thing, you can actually work out how many beads you need by measuring them and measuring the size of the bead frame and work it out that way, but I just kind of eyeballed it. So that's what I have now. Now I need to thread this wire up through the top of the hole, or the top hole. So what I need to do is pull it back until it kind of pops down inside the bead frame, and then thread it up through. Now if your wire is bent, it makes it really hard, so try and straighten, make sure your wire is nice and straight before you do that. So that's what I have now, and now I'm just going to make a loop in the top, and once again I'm going to use my one-step looper for that. Just pushing on the bottom to make sure that the beads are all stacked up nicely before I make my loop. And I'm just going to use my chain nose pliers because my loop isn't quite closed, and just close it. So that's what I have now. And now I'm going to use a head pin to make this dangle to go on the bottom. So I've got my head pin, And I'm going to put on my, what have I got here? It's a little 3mm corrugated silver bead. Then I've got a 4mm glass Druk. And I've got my 6mm smooth round bead. So that's what I have. Nice little dangle. Gonna make a loop in the top. This time I'll make it with the pliers so that you can see exactly how I do that. I'll just move this out of the way for a sec. All right, so to make a loop, you make a right angle bend at the top, and then you take your flush cutters and cut the wire to about 1 centimetre from the loop, from the bend, depending on the size of loop that you want to make. Cut it holding both ends, and then you take your round nose pliers and you put it between the end between the jaws. Make sure it's not sticking up, and then you twist it, readjust and twist again. Now I have a video on making these basic loops, so I'll leave a link for that one in the description box, just in case you have any issues with making it. All right, now I think I could use a jump ring to attach that, but I'm not sure. Let's have a look, see what it looks like. If we put that one on there and that one on there. These are 6mm jump rings. Do I like that? I think I do. All right, so let's just do that again for you. So I've already got my jump ring open. I'm going to hold it in my pliers here, and I'm going to feed on my component. Now I've got a top and a bottom of this component because I have 2 beads at one end and one at the top, and I think I'll use this one with the 1 bead as the top. So I'm going to put this on the bottom. Then I'm going to put the loop of my little dangle that I just made on there as well. I'm going to close up this jump ring. Now I'm actually just going to give it a squeeze to close it almost all the way. Whoops. I seem to have drop C today. And then I'm just going to make sure it's closed properly, just using my flat nose pliers here. There we go. So that's my focal component of my necklace. All right, now we'll bring back the bead design board and we will start designing this. So there's my focal part there, and it's going to sit about there. And now I am going to decide what to do next. So I think I like these blue beads, and they are the biggest ones that I have, almost. So I'm going to put one of those on either side, and I think what I might do is grab the little 3mm silver ones, and then a couple of little Druks, and I might pop those there, and then I might just reverse that, so make that like that. So that makes quite a good first component, and I might make these up as I go, I think. So I'll grab some wire and I will make a loop in one end, and I've cut it too short to use my 1-step looper, so I'm actually just going to use my pliers to make that, my round nose pliers. Your 1-step looper does use a little bit more wire than if you're just doing your loops manually, but it makes it so quick, so super quick. All right, so there's my loop. Now I'm going to thread on my little 3mm corrugated bead, my glass Druk, my smooth 6mm, and my glass Druk again, and my 3mm. And this time I've got enough wire to use my 1-step looper, so I'm going to do that. Oopsie. and my loop just didn't work. Sometimes it was the way I was holding it. So I'm just going to finish that loop with my pliers. All right, there's my first component. I'm going to repeat that for this one, for this side. So there's my component, but one thing to note is that when you make a component like this, you want both of your loops to be going facing the same direction. So I'm going to grab my pliers, my 2 pairs, and grab the loops, and I'm just going to twist them so that they're both going the same direction. And I'm going to do that with the other one too. These ones are pretty good. Okay. So there's my first component, and I might add that to the focal with a jump ring, I think. Yes, that's what we'll do. So I'm going to put on the focal and those 2 components, and I'm going to close up my jump ring using my pliers. Now, if you haven't used jump rings before, I'll leave a link in the description box for a video I've done all about how to work with jump rings as well. Okay, so that's a good start to my necklace. What do you think so far? All right, what are we going to do next? So I've got these bead frames, and I'd quite like to use those, because these smaller bead frames, because they kind of echo what's going on here. So I think I might use those, and I might put some beads inside. The question is, how many beads will fit? So I know that I'll put one of these big ones in there. Now, I don't think those will fit if I put 2. No, they won't fit. You can see there that that's not going to fit another one. So I'm actually going to use the 3mm beads as well. And I actually quite like that with the silver with the silver. So that's what we're going to do next. So once again, we're going to grab some wire and cut some off. And just straighten it a little bit with my fingers. And then I'm going to take my 1-step looper and make a loop in one end. Is that going to be long enough? Yep. And I'm going to put, now first, before I do anything else, I'm going to straighten this piece of wire. I'm just going to do that by, you can see it's got a curve. Maybe you can see it better over here. And I'm just going to give it a bit of a squeeze, turn it around and give it another squeeze. It doesn't have to be too straight, it just needs to go through the bead frame. It just needs to be quite, it doesn't need to, it can't have any kinks in it. All right, so we're going to feed on the bead frame, and then I'm going to put on my little 3mm bead. Then I'm putting on my 6mm bead, my other 3mm, so that's what I have. And now what I'm going to do is pull it back and feed that wire up through the top of the bead frame like that. And now I'm going to make a loop just like before. Just going to make sure it's closed. And when I've finished a piece of jewellery, I always go back and make sure that the loops are closed as well, just to double check that it's not going to fall apart. So I've made sure that my loops are going the same way as well. That component can go there, and I'm going to make another one. There's my next 2 components, and I haven't joined them together yet. I think I'll carry on and make something with these rectangles, because I don't know if I want those there or if I want them further up. As it is, they'll sit kind of on my collarbones, and maybe I want them to sit a little bit further up. So I'll make some components with these rectangles first, and then I will decide what I want to do. So I think I will repeat this, but with the rectangle instead of the 6mm round. So once again, going to take some wire, make a loop in the end just like before. You can see this is just a repeat of the same techniques over and over again, which is pretty much what jewellery making is. Making sure it's nice and closed. And then I'm going to, what did I say I was going to do? I was going to put on a little silver ball. And then that one's got a tight hole. A little 4mm Druk. Then I'm going to put on my rectangle, and I'm just going to reverse that, so the Druk first and then the ball. So that's what I have, and now I'm going to put a loop in the top. Make sure it's closed properly. I'll just double check that. I'll just make sure that those both those links are going the same way. Oops, the loops are going the same way. So that's there. Now I'll just repeat that for this one. So now I've got my rectangles done as well, and I'm thinking I need at least one more component to make it long enough. Obviously it needs to be quite long, quite a lot longer, so just thinking about what I should do next. I think I might repeat this. Maybe, we'll see. We'll see how we go. So just grabbing some more wire. Give it a bit of a straighten. Make a loop in the end just like before. Okay, I'm going to go with the little ball, little 3mm, and then the 4mm, and then a smooth round. But I think I want it to be longer, so I might actually put on another 4mm Druk. And then I will put on another 6, another 4, and then my 3 again. So that's what I have, and I quite like that. I think it works really well. So, and it just makes that component more the length of the others. Whereas if I'd just done that much, it would have been quite short. So it's all about balance and making it kind of look like it's balanced with the others. So that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to, I guess I could have put another couple of little silver ones in the middle, but I think I quite like it the way it is. So there, whoops. There we go. Now I'm going to make another one. I actually ended up making 4 of those components because I needed it to be a bit longer, and I thought that they worked really well. But the question is, do I switch these 2 around so that I have this one up here? So my pendant will be in the middle here, and then I've got a small component, and then I've got my bead frame ones, which will sit about here. And so if I put one of the other components and then the rectangle ones will sit up here, and I think I'd prefer them down here. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm actually going to put them back down the bottom here. Now I obviously need a little bit more length because I need it to be about 19 on either side, I think. So I've got some jump rings here, and I'm going to make up some chain components with the jump rings. So I'm going to take my 2 pairs of pliers. Now I have already opened my jump rings, and I do that at the beginning of a project usually, well often, if I'm going to be using lots of jump rings, because it makes it easier. I don't have to put everything down and open them. So what I'm going to do is add 1 jump ring here. But I've got some 4mm jump rings, and I think it might be kind of cool to have a 6, a 4 and a 6. Let's have a look, see what that looks like. So I'll put on my 6, then I'll put on a 4. And I'm going to close my jump ring. So that's what I have now. And I'm thinking I'll put another 6mm on the other side of that and put that other component on. So it makes it kind of like a chain rather than just the beads. I'm just going to give that one a bit of a squeeze. It's not quite closed. There we go. So putting on my, threading on my 4mm and then my component here. And closing that up. So there's that. What do you think of that? I think it actually looks kind of cool. So that's what we're going with. Let me know in the comment section below if you like the idea of me using jump rings to make a chain. I'm just closing up this loop a bit because it's not quite closed, I can see. There we go. And I think I will repeat that between these components as well. All right, so there we go. That's what I have now. I'll just show you close up. Okay. And I actually really like the openness of this with the jump rings rather than it being a really closed heavy necklace, because the pendant part is very heavy. It's kind of nice to have some balance and having it light and airy up the top here. It doesn't always work, but in this case I think it does. So I'm going to take another 6mm jump ring. I'm just going to open this one a little bit because it's not quite open enough. I'm going to put on a 4, which is open. They're always open when you don't want them to be, and closed when you want them to be open. They're never quite right. Okay, so feeding on my 4mm onto my 6, and then feeding on that component and closing that jump ring. All right, and then I'm going to put another 6mm on. So adding the 4mm to the new 6mm and adding that component and closing that up. So that's what I have now. And then I'm going to repeat it one more time. Now I have my whole chain made with my jump rings in between the 6s and the 4s. So that looks kind of cool. I'm quite happy with that. Obviously now I have to repeat it for the other side, and then I'm going to decide what to do with the clasp here. So I'll go ahead and repeat it. I'll go ahead and join all of these together, and then I'll come back and do the clasp bit. Now that I have all my components together, I just need to attach a clasp although if I did that it would be too short, so I need to make it a little bit longer. I probably need to add another centimetre or so on either side, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use my jump rings and use them in exactly the same way as I have here to add a little bit of extra length. So I'm going to take a jump ring, a 6mm jump ring and a 4mm. Just going to make sure that that jump ring is close. I'm not sure whether you can see this, but sometimes you get a jump ring and it's almost close and you can just give it a little squeeze that way rather than closing it properly, and it will close because they kind of click into place. You can kind of hear them sometimes. Then I'm going to thread that on here, and see, sometimes you can actually get away with doing that, but it doesn't ever close it quite right, so just going to give it a little bit extra squeeze, extra wiggle. All right, so there's that one. I'm going to remove this design board now, and I'm going to add another 6mm, and I think that gives me, how much does that give me? I said I needed an extra centimetre, and it gives me about 12 extra millimetres. So I think I will just put my clasp on this one. So threading on that 4mm, and I've got a 17mm lobster clasp here. So I'm going to thread that on as well. And just close up that jump ring. That's one side done, and I'm going to repeat for the other side. And this time I'm going to add, I'm actually going to add 2 6mm jump rings here. So I'm going to close this one up. And I'm going to grab another one, and I'm going to pop on that 4mm and the 6 as well. Whoops. So I'm going to add that 6mm on there, so the 4mm onto the 6, and then I'm going to add that closed 6mm. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want the 6mm to act as the other end of the clasp. So that means that my necklace is exactly the same length on either end, plus 1 for the clasp. All right, so there's my clasp all done. And now I'm going to show you in a minute what it looks like on, but before I do that, there it is all finished. I think it's wonderful, but then I'm a blue girl, you know that about me. So I'm going to just switch back the camera and put it on for you. Oh, it goes perfectly with my top. And I didn't plan it, I promise. Okay, so that's what it looks like on. I actually really like it. It's very airy looking, and but it's got this nice kind of concentration of blue right in the front here. So I do really like it. Let me know what you think. If you enjoyed this and liked me making up the chain with the jump rings, let me know. And if you've ever used a bead frame before, I'd really be interested to know that too. Thank you so much for watching today. If you enjoyed this video, it would be really cool if you'd give me a little thumbs up, and also subscribe, obviously, if you would like to see more. And also check us out on Facebook and Instagram, because we often post pictures on Instagram that we don't do videos of, and also we sometimes run competitions on Facebook. Thank you so much for watching today. It's been a pleasure to have you along. I will see you again next week.